Hello, and this week's Got Clutter Get Organized episode, I am so excited because, the fall is fast approaching. And as we transition to a new season, whether it's a back to school, back to work, or just actually kind of tackling those fall projects, I'm going to give you some simple tips to really have some routines that actually can help you have a smoother morning routine. So stay tuned for this week's episode. Hello and welcome to Got Clutter, Get Organized, the conversation. And of course, I am kicking off the month with another solo conversation. And because we are in that back to school season, not only do I want to give you tips for, of course, for those of you who do have to send your kids off back to school, but also for us adults as well, because we have to get ourselves back into that routine. So today we're going to talk about simple ways to make back to school routine less stressful. I'm going to give you seven, but these are routines that you can use whether you're sending kids to school or you're just going to get yourself back in gear for fall season for that last quarter of the year, which is kind of hard to believe to be saying that actually. So let's start with tip number one. And this is something that I talk about whenever I talk about stress management. Start with some sleep. That is key because you have to really begin to one, get a great night's sleep so that you can have the energy physically and mentally to do all the things that you need to do. But you know, basically sometimes people can do some reading right before they go to bed, maybe do some journaling, do some brain dumping, but also have a routine that helps you kind of go into your sleep. Some people have room darkening curtains and shades. Um, some people take relaxing baths. A lot of times, one of the things that all of us adults need to do is we need to put down these devices so many minutes before we want to go to sleep, because then our brain, all that activity will begin to like slow down and relax. So start with some sleep. Number two, prep the night before, because I always say 15 minutes of preparing the night before saves you an hour the next day and you have a smoother morning routine. So that prepping the night before is maybe putting your shoes either, you know, outside the closet, by the entryway, packing that bag, that tote. A lot of times, specifically as women, and maybe sometimes men, depending on what you have to do, you change backpacks, you change bags. So making sure everything you need is in that bag, making sure you have your outfit ready because sometimes you do have in mind what you want to wear, but then you pull it out the closet, or it may not even be in the closet because it's still in the dirty clothes. So doing that prep, and also for those of you who have to wear uniforms, making sure that is presentable as well, making sure you know where your keys are. And if you're like me, a lot of times when I do go on site with clients, a lot of times, I'll take a little snack with me. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll prepare it the night before. I'll put it like in the bag if it definitely doesn't need to be refrigerated. And I'll put it in a bag, make sure I have, the water I need, any snacks I need, but I make sure my bag is fully stocked so that when I get up in the morning, really all I have to concentrate on getting myself together and getting out the door. So that is something you need. And also, last little tip, sometimes just mapping our route because a lot of times there's all kind of changes. It could be weather changes. It could be construction changes. It could be I take the train a lot of times. It could be those schedule changes. So just making sure that you kind of have in mind the night before. So then when you wake up the morning, you're not trying to rush around and thinking, oh my goodness, it kind of throws you off schedule. So definitely do that. So tip number three. And are you taking notes? I always like to know. Let me know in the comments below. Have a wake up time that works for you. Now, um, over the past few months, I was actually, which I love doing some workshops for the 18 to 25-year-old. age range. And one of the things that I told them, and I'm going to tell you too, is that always work backwards. So if you know you have to be to work at 8 o'clock, and you also know that it takes you an hour to get to work, which means that you have to leave at no later than 7 o'clock. What time do you have to be up in order to get out of the door at 7 o'clock? So always work backwards because that will help you create whatever you need to do at night and part of your, the night before routine, but also knowing what you need to do in the morning in order to make it out the door in the morning. I still remember years ago when I was a younger version of Janet and I had to be to work by 7 a.m. 7 a.m., which meant I had to leave the house at least by 6 o'clock. So those are things that I kept in mind. And also, I made sure I did things the night before, etc. And also because when I did leave for work that early in the morning, there was always somebody who was traveling with me. So I had to take that into consideration as well. So think about that. Think about all of that, those. And also, I'm saying all that is because then that will help you know what time do you need to go to bed. Because, and you can let me know in the comments, like how many hours of sleep do you need? I'm an 8 hour sleep girl. I really need 8 hours. I mean, sometimes I get 6 and maybe 7. And that's usually on mornings when I don't want to oversleep because I actually have to catch a 6 a.m. train. And so, but how many hours? Because then it'll let you need to be in the bed by a certain time in order to make that happen. And getting in that routine and also not breaking that routine on the weekends. Because one of the things I do on weekends, I still get up I still wake up the same time I do during the week. But on weekends, I allow myself to just kind of stay in bed a little longer. And that's it. I don't break that habit and that routine. So think about that as well. What time do you need to wake up? Now, number 4 is get dressed before you leave the bedroom. And this is a little controversial because a lot of people say, I don't want to get dressed because I got to feed the kids and I've got to do a lot of other things. And I do understand that. So look at what works for you. Personally, getting dressed. And when I say getting dressed, I believe you should be at least 75% dressed. It's probably, you already taken your shower. Maybe you just pop on a robe and then go make your breakfast and then come back and all you have to do is just put on your outfit, any last minute touch ups, makeup, lipstick, and then you're out the door. But at least 75% of you should be ready before you leave that bedroom. Now, some people, it works, excuse me, in the opposite way. But think about that. So think about what works for you. Because if going, eating breakfast, making your smoothie, coming back, taking your shower, getting dressed works for you, great. But create a routine. But I know for me, at least getting up, putting on makeup, you know, washing, taking a shower, putting the robe on, going, making my breakfast, and then coming back and just doing some final things and putting my clothes and going out the door for me. So do that. You just have to excuse me. Allergy season. So, number 5, keep breakfast simple, whatever that means for you. Now, of course, if you got kids, you got to think about them. Do you like smoothies? Do those things work? Do you, eat cereal? Or do you really want to sit down and have a breakfast? So think about that. What does it look like? There were times when I really want a little bit more for breakfast because I know I'm going to be traveling. But because I'm traveling, I may not have all that time. So what I'll do is I will boil an egg the night before. I will do that. So therefore, in the morning, I'll just make some toast, make my tea, and then I'm done. So think about that, but keep it simple. Keep it as simple as possible because you don't really, keep the elaborate, the waffles, the pancakes, and whatever else you enjoy, for the weekends or on those mornings when things are a little slower, or even for those of you who are working from home then of course, you have that time. But if you're trying to get out the house, trying to beat traffic, trying to catch that train, think about that as well. And number 6 is my favorite buffer time. buffer time, and that's always giving yourself a little bit of time. So, for example, I knew I had to catch a train by 6:20, which meant I had to leave the house at least by quarter of. 5:30 would have been perfect, but quarter of, because I know it would have been taking me 15 minutes just to get a lift, Uber to take to the train, to get the train by 6 o'clock. I did not. I wanted, and that's what, and I share that with you because I have seen so many people, because I live near 30th Street Station, and I see so many people running for the train. And because those trains are on a schedule. So once they pull out, now depending on what type of train in the schedule, you may be able to catch the next one. But if you're traveling on Amtrak, you cannot always catch. You have to buy another ticket, etc. So what is your buffer time? Like, what time do you need? Maybe you do need to be to work by 8. The latest you want to leave the house is 7 o'clock, but you know what? You really like to leave at 6:45. That way you don't feel like you've got to rush just in case there's traffic. And because sometimes traffic patterns change. I live, I always say, on the other side of of the university, a major university here in Philadelphia. And before, it would take me 15 minutes, 20 minutes tops to get from where I live into Center City. But now, because there's a lot of different construction going on, new buildings going on, depending on an activity. I mean, pen relays, graduations can throw off traffic patterns easily. So I have to keep that in mind when it's a pen relays or there's going to be a graduation. Usually, if there's going to be a graduation, I'm usually like, okay, what are the days of the graduation? Because I'm going to do my best to work from home because I know I have to almost double my time it would take me. So sometimes we need to take that into consideration. And I'm sharing this with you because that's part of having a smoother morning routine. So, you know, think about that as well. And then, of course, and that gets me into my last tip. Know your out of the door time. I had to catch that train at 6:20. I had to be out the door in my mind at least by no later than 5:50 because I needed at least allow myself a little bit of time just in case there was a traffic issue because I could not miss that train because the next train would have gotten me to my location late, which meant I would not have been able to start my first presentation, which my first presentation started at 8 a.m. So we have to think about that. And these are some things I want you to think about now so that when September comes, you can start like looking at your schedule because a lot of times with train schedules, as it gets into the fall, things change. So I'm going to go over all of these again. Number one, start with your sleep, making sure that you get enough sleep each and every night. Number two, prepare the night before. 15 minutes of pre-planning. 15 minutes saves you an hour the next day. That means you're not running around trying to find the shoes, maybe the other earring. Oh my goodness, you're trying to figure out, wait a minute, I forgot my water bottle. Those things. Number three, set a wake up time that works for you. So making sure it works for you. Now, one of the things this I do is I have two alarms on my clock. I have a first alarm for when, it would be nice if I wake up that time because that would give me a little bit more time. But then I've got that one that I have to get up when that alarm goes off. So, some people have two, some people have three. And some people have snooze buttons as well. I don't do snooze. I usually just do straight out alarms. Number four, get dressed before leaving the bedroom, but it depends. If getting dressed, and when I say getting dressed, I mean maybe have like at least 75%, take the shower, maybe put the makeup on, and go have that breakfast. Or some people, depending on what they eat, they do smoothies, so therefore they just get fully dressed, but have some type of routine. Number five, keep your breakfast as simple as possible. There are days when you probably can do an elaborate breakfast when you're home on the weekends, when you're working from home. But when you got to get out of the door at a certain time, then you definitely need to do that. And then, of course, muffins, smoothies. You know what a simple breakfast is. And post in the comments below what your simple breakfast is. Number 6, add in buffer time. Some buffer time. 15 minutes cushion, 15, 20 minutes cushion. So that's always important as well. And then number 7 is, what is your out of the door time? Like, what time do you need to be out the door? Because if you're not at the door by that time, you're going to either miss a train, you're going to be late. So think about those things. So I want to know, of all of these tips, which one you're going to implement as you're moving towards the fall. But also, I want to know, what's your simple breakfast, because I'm always looking for ideas. And also, how do you prepare yourself in the morning? Do you just, get up, go make your smoothie, maybe do some exercises or whatever, then take your shower, get dressed and go out the door? Or do you, get semi-dressed, go make your breakfast? Let me know. I want to hear from you. So I hope you've enjoyed this solo segment with me. And of course, I want you to definitely continue listening to the rest of the episode, because we've got the Toss It Tuesday, my product, as well as my book suggestion for the week. And of course, I always end with a quote. So, for those of you watching via YouTube, thank you so much for joining me. But for those who are going to be listening to me via the audio, please continue. And until next time, just have a clutter free day. But of course, I will hear from you and hope to see you soon. Take care.